This is my Sorcerer healer, my sorc healer. She isn't fully leveled on all of the skill lines, but I will definitely recommend those. So this is just a basic build for setting this up. Generally, I do not use Sense or Martial Knowledge on the Sorcerer healer, so generally you'll find yourself in Olorime. You don't need Perfected. And another good set to go along with that is Hollow Fang. You can also pair different sets with that. Other sets that you can use are Torag's Pact if your tank's not using that, or you can use Jorvolds if you really want to, or Winters. There are a lot of healer set options. You can even put Martial Knowledge with Olorime if you would like. Okay, so I'm just going to go over a basic build real quick. Okay, so the food I generally use is Bistat, Mag, and Health food. You don't really need too much recovery on a healer right now. Sorcs do not have the best sustain, so if you really feel you need to, you can use Clockwork, or you can use the Poor Man's Clockwork, which is Witch Mother's. The Clockwork food's just pretty expensive to make. As far as potions go, you'll generally want to keep on your spell power, because when you have your stats increase this way, your heals are better. If you're not really doing any try-hard content, you can always just use what you call trash pots. You can also use tri-stat pots if you really want to. Not generally used. I don't use tri-stat food on my healers. For the gear, you can use different monster sets. Having one Symphony of Blades in the group is pretty nice for sustain. You can also use things like Bogdan or Troll King. There are some other healer set options as well. Some aren't used as much, like Sentinel. Okay, so one of the staffs I like using is the Black Rose staff. Just make sure you have Ward Ally equipped when you do use it. You don't need this for all situations. You can use the Master's Restoration staff. That's easier for you to get now since you can get it out of normal Dragonstar Arena, the non-perfected version. It shouldn't take too long to run through that, or you can get the perfected version by running through Vet Dragonstar. Other staffs you can use on your front bar are the Asylum staff. You'll just want to make sure you have Combat Prayer, which is generally one you want to keep on anyway, or you can use the Maelstrom staff, which kind of helps with your recovery if you need to on the sorc, if you use Rapid Regeneration or the other morph of that. When I use Olorime, I like to put it on one bar, and if you put it on the back bar, you can use a 2-piece resto on the front bar. If not, you can proc it on either bar. It's just a little bit harder to proc that way. Jewelry, I like to keep spell damage on my enchants. If you feel you need mag recovery, you can put one on there. You can use Arcane, is pretty standard. You can also transmute to Infused if you'd like to do that. You don't have to gold out your gear, but it definitely helps with your stats. So when you can and you get good traits, you want to do that. Generally on my healers, I keep Divines or Infused, sometimes a combination of both. Some people like to put tri-stat glyphs on their gear. I personally don't. I don't find that I need tons of extra stam just with my playstyle, but if you do, you can do that instead. And I would just put it on infused big pieces like the head, chest, and legs. Okay, so my standard stats are here. As you can see, the max magicka, you'll want to keep it over 30k. Higher the better is nice. Your health, you'll want to keep at least 18k. This one's 20 with the Bistat food. It's less with the recovery food. And mag recovery, you want to keep it probably the lowest at 1200. I wouldn't go much higher than 1500 because you can light attack weave between each of your skills and get magicka back that way. And you can also heavy attack every couple of rotations, so you can get your resto passive. Happen to have the Ritual Mundus on right now. There are many different Mundus that you can use. If you feel you need the recovery, you can use the Atronach Mundus. If you feel you want more spell damage, you can use the Apprentice Mundus. I have resting right here over 2,000. That's generally fine. If I were to take a spell power potion, you can see that that will go up to 2,400 right there, and my crit goes up to 41%. I usually like to keep it above like 30 or so before your potions. The recovery went up a little bit as well, so that's why if you keep that active, it makes it easier to play. Okay, so to go over some quick skills, you'll always want to keep Combat Prayer on your Restoration staff bar. This is something you'll want to be using at least every 8 seconds, so even as a healer you'll want to have a rotation. The only reason I have Empowered Ward on here was to grant minor intellect. If you have a warden using their mushrooms ability, that also does that, and it would be redundant to use it. Dark Conversion is nice to have on here as your source of one of your passives, so I'll go over it when we get down there, but it also gives you Magicka back since it's a little bit rough on the sorc. Radiating Regen's a nice one to have if you have anyone spread out. Illustrious Healing is going to be your standard AoE heal. You'll just want to keep that down on the group. You can use Absorption Field as your other ulti if you want, or Barrier. On your back bar, I have Boundless Storm. She was set up last for VMAL hard mode. This is why I have the skills that I have chosen here. But this helps use your survivability through Major Resolve, and it gives you Expedition. You don't have to use this on a sorc, but it's kind of nice. Elemental Drain, you'll want to keep on. A lot of tanks use Ransack as their instead of Puncture, so they won't be applying the same buffs onto their targets. Plus it also gives Magic Steal, which is nice, so you want to keep that up if you have any Magicka in the group. It's also nice for tanks. Blockade of Storms is what you'll want to use to put down your enchant, and it also does off balance for the DPS. A lot of DPS have the Exploiter passive, so they will get increased damage on the targets that have that. So as a healer, you'll want to keep that down with a Lightning Staff, because DPS will be using Flame Staff, so they won't have that for you. Energy Orb, this also does a heal as well as regenerating resources. If you have a lot of Magicka DPS in the group using the Mystic Orb morph, then you don't have to use this, but it's always a nice heal as well. Liquid Lightning, you would mostly just use this for the synergy, so you'd make sure you want to drop it on your tanks so they can proc Alkosh with it. You'll always want to keep Aggressive Horn on your bar because of the major force that it gives the group. You want to alternate that with the other support in the group. Okay, so to go through the dark magic skill line here, there are a couple of options here. So you'll see that when you cast a dark magic ability, you grant minor prophecy to the group. That's one of the only ways you can get it is through the sorc. So you want to make sure that if you're the only sorc in the group, and if you're the healer, chances are you might be, then you'll want to have one of those on your bar. So you have to make sure you cast it. So you want to cast this one. It says it lasts for 20 seconds. The skill itself lasts for 20 seconds, so you want to use this every other rotation. Another option, if you're using Olo to place it on the back bar instead of Conduit, you could have Daedric Tomb out. So if you use that, then it'll put down your Olo circle with that. You can also put the Olo circle down with Conduit, but if you're putting that on your tank, then chances are you will be giving them Olo as well. So I don't currently have these passives on. I was just out of skill points, but you can definitely keep all of these on here. They're good for you to have. Okay, so on this skill line, you'll definitely want to have Empowered Ward if you want to give Intellect, and Bound Aegis is nice to have on here, but you don't need to have it. Make sure you have your passives. You can also heal with this. I don't generally find that it's needed except for very certain situations, maybe like healing the Ice Tombs in Sunspire, because you have to put it on both bars, and there aren't any real good passives you give your group from having it on there. So I don't generally use it on my healer, but you certainly can if you'd like. So this next skill line here, Boundless Storm is a good option. I've tried using Power Surge before. It just doesn't really seem to do much in the group. So don't generally use too much on here except for maybe Boundless and Liquid Lightning. You do get more mag recovery, so if you want to pop that on, as you can see I have it on the back, I have more mag recovery, but if you want to put like Boundless on the front, then you'll have one on each bar. You can give yourself more recovery on each bar. Again, that increases your damage done. Okay, so you'll want to, on your Destro staff line, to have your blockade. You can also get Crushing Shock if you want as a utility skill to interrupt. If you do Zens on it, you don't have any class single target abilities, so I generally don't, but you can use the Shock Reach here. Restoration Staff, you can get that ulti, but generally you won't use it. And Ward Ally is your other option, so I would actually have this on with the Black Rose Staff. Make sure you have all of your passives here, because you get major mending anytime you do a fully charged heavy attack for 3 seconds, and you also heal when you do that, and you restore magicka. So that's definitely something you'll want to keep up in your rotation. I usually end up doing it every couple of rotations, heavy attack. So you don't really need the shield from here. I would definitely recommend getting all of these passives. Medium armor, I'd only get that one. Make sure you're wearing one medium, one heavy piece. Heavy, I'd get those 3. Fighter's Guild, you can get Trap Beast if you are doing that for Zens, because it acts as a stamina dump, and it also does some damage. You're not really looking to do too much damage as a healer, but any little bit helps. Mage's Guild, if you do use Zens, you're going to want to max out all of the passives here. Okay, and for Undaunted, you are going to want to get that to 10 so that you can get these passives as well. Okay, and the other ones you want to have here are going to be for support. You can use the Reviving Barrier, and then you can also have Guard on if you want to. This will just help with your recovery. And I am a high elf, so you're going to, this is going to give you some increase to these stats here. You can be a Breton if you feel like you need to have more recovery. I don't generally recommend other races for healing. Make sure you have your medicinal use up so your potions last longer. Okay, so for champion points, you can do anything you want in the green tree. I usually like to put something into Warlord for breaking free. Since you do heavy attack, you can have more in tenacity and magicka recovery. And these are pretty much just up to you. So if you want block cost reduction, put more in there. If you're more of a dodge roller, you put more into there. If you're doing a Zen setup, you'd have different CP, but this is just general setup. And then your red is going to be per the trial. So that's a pretty well-rounded red one, except for the spell shield right there. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it just for the basic healer build, so let me know if you have any questions.